all your life. UNA University, manifesting all your dreams. With paradise, your land is home. Writing contracts on your own. Protect your loved ones every day. Knowledge goes a long, long way. UNA University for me. UNA University for me. UNA Paradise all your life. University all your dreams. Land is home on your own every day. Long, long way. UNA University for me. Welcome to your paradise. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am yours truly, Diva Laree, representing for UNA Republic and UNA University. Welcome. Welcome. Let's do this thing on this Friday. Yes, 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 yes. UNA. Yeah. All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, 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 welcome. I'm yours truly, Diva Laree, representing for UNA Republic and UNA University, where we help you find your social freedom, your financial freedom, and most importantly, your spiritual freedom. Let's go. All right. We got a wonderful, wonderful Friday. I hope your Friday is wonderful as mine is. All right. So listen, we have a wonderful show by request, or a wonderful session by request. Karmic law, unveiling ancestral debt. Cosmic law, unveiling history. I'm getting it right. I'm saying it again. I'm getting it right this time. Karmic law, unveiling hidden ancestral debt or baggage. Some people call it baggage, all right? Ancestral baggage or ancestral debt. We're going to talk about it, get into it today, because especially when we're talking about the United States of America, we're not fully understanding what took place on this land, and we're going to get into it today. I'm going to ruffle some feathers because somebody's going to be mad because the things that I'm telling you are not going to be in sync with your public school miseducation. But if you're really wanting to grow and you really wanting to know, stay tuned. We're going to go through this. And if you're in the back of the room, I suggest you come to the front so we can get this education in and you can study for yourself. All right, let me get into this. For those of you all who are looking for a trust or your trust package, this is it right here. Membership trust package. What's in this? These are all of your documents you need so that you are under trust and you're standing righteously in law. 1 second, I think we're having problems. Let me make sure we're not frozen for 1 second. If you can see me, first of all, before I come in and I'm ready to get to work. Let me give thanks, love, and shouts out to Balance. Thank you so much for being here. Genesis Jen, Thank you so much for being here. All my people on TikTok, YouTube, I appreciate you. Trippy, music, welcome. All right, so it says we're still going, but it looks frozen over here, but I'm going to keep it moving. All right, so I want to welcome everybody, and I want to say thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it. We've got a wonderful session tonight, especially for those of you who really have been searching for the truth about what's going on in this land we know of as North America. Okay, so getting back to this, the membership trust package. All right, for those of you all who are not aware, a trust package is highly powerful in that it gives you a different jurisdiction, all right, other than what we know of as the U.S. jurisdiction. And a lot of people are not aware that the U.S., there's the U.S. and the United States of America. There are two different entities. And don't ask ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is going to say, I don't know what you're talking about. Well, this is why we do these sessions like this, especially when we go into the Act of 1871, which you can no longer find on the internet because somebody pulled it down and then changed it, trying to tell you that it has to do with the Ku Klux Klan. Anyway, I'm sorry, I digress. Let me get back to the membership trust package. You have to understand that when you create a trust, you're put under a different jurisdiction, okay? And so not only do we create these for you or help you create them, we're going to show you why you create these documents, what the documents are that you are creating, where you put them, why do you put them there. You don't need to know just, okay, well, I got a trust, but do you know how to use it? We're going to show you how to use it. That's why this package is so valuable, because it comes with an education. All right. So also it comes with your membership badge. And these are powerful, especially when you have agents out here trying to force you into contracts. This membership badge, it's highly powerful. When we're talking about the allodial ID, this ID is dealing with your spiritual name. Okay, so some of you all are not aware about the difference between a given name versus a corporate name versus your spiritual name. Well, we're going into it in the class. And you're also going to have access to all of your documents that are on record via this QR code. All right. So if you're interested, I want you to leave your name and number and email for my TikTok people. The rest of you go to UNA University. If you're on X, you can leave a name, number, email in the inbox. So we are broadcasting live on X, TikTok, and YouTube. So I want to welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Let me get into this. Hold on for 1 second. All my people on TikTok, if you can see us okay, let us know. If you can see us okay on TikTok, let us know. All right, my people on YouTube, thank you so much for being here. X, thank you so much for being with us, okay? So if you want this membership package, go to unauniversity.com or find us at, thank you so much, Immortal. Yes, you are Immortal. Find us on UNA University, okay? Or leave your name, number, and email in the inbox, and we're going to get you over to we're going to get you in our workshop. Let's go, let's go. All right, now, also we have the UNA Beginner Law Book, all right? In this law book is detailing what the laws are that we stand on, all right? Universal law, maxims of law, and in here you'll find all 200 and some odd maxims of law. One of the things that I've told you guys, if I'm in court, if I got to create, because I create courts, if I got to create a court, I'm standing on these laws, all right? Making sure that this, everything in here, the maxims of law, universal law, hierarchy of law, they're on record, because you need to know you have the right to stand under your God, and you've got the right to state what the laws of your God are. This is how you do it. You got to understand what the laws are. This book, if you get the physical book, if you get the physical book, You have the hierarchy of laws chart that comes with it, an additional copy of it. You have an additional copy of the universal laws chart, and you have an additional copy of the vibratory frequency chart. Now, these are in the book, but we're giving you an extra copy because we want you to put them up, put them on your wall, put them on your mirrors, put them on your refrigerator, because we want these laws to become a part of you. All right. Also, if you get the physical copy, it comes with the civilization cycle and the societal totem pole. All right. So if you want this, go to unauniversity.com. unauniversity.com. All right. So once again, we're broadcasting live on X, TikTok, and YouTube. But for whatever reason, TikTok keeps blocking us, or whatever they're doing over there on TikTok. I hope those of you on TikTok can see us okay. And thank you for being with us. If you are on YouTube, thank you so much for being with us. Let's get into this now. The topic tonight, karmic law, unveiling hidden ancestral debt or baggage, some people call it. Now, I need to preface some things about, hold on for a second. All right. So I need to preface some things now. We have had one of our videos to go viral. All right. And this is the video where I talked about how there were presidents in what we know of as the Continental Congress before George Washington, and they were melanated. Okay. Now, some of us who have studied, we know this, we understand this. All right. But some of us who are still stuck on the public school miseducation, we haven't done any studying, and we don't know what really happened in this land. So I need to go into some things, and so that we can understand what truly happened. Now, last week, because again, we're going into karmic law, unveiling hidden ancestral debt. Now, I've got to go into this history, because then we can go into the spiritual side of what you see going on in this so-called society. All right. The only way we can go into that if we know the true history. All right. And so what we have been taught is not the truth about what happened in this land. And so let's be clear as we go through this, what happened, and so we can understand what the spiritual ramifications are that we are seeing today in this society. Okay, so going into back to when there was the Declaration of Independence and the Revolutionary War, and that whole time frame around 1776, 1777. But I'm going to back up a little bit, even go into the early 1700s. All right. So we know that Britain was already in the land and had created what we know of as the Virginia Company, but also today you know of it as the state of Virginia. Welcome to my friend S. Walk. Thank you for joining us. So we know that that Britain had already been in the land creating the colonies, and that there were a group of Moors in the land who did not like the way Britain was treating everybody. So that became an issue because Britain was treacherous. Now I get people asking me all the time, they say, well, Diva, what you want? What should we read so we can find out the truth about history? What? Look, I told you, read the Declaration of Independence, read the Constitution, read the Iroquois Confederacy, read that document between the Peace and Friendship Treaty between Morocco and the United States of America. Read that so that you can get an understanding. But there's another document in there that I say you should read. It's called the Treaty of Paris. And you got to understand the timeline in which these things came. And once you start recognizing the timeline, then you're going to understand the lies that have been told to us. Okay, so let me continue, because now we're recognizing that there is Britain in the land. Now, a lot of people look at Britain, or you hear Britain, and the first thing people think is Albions. That's the first thing people think. But let's be clear. All royalty, whether it was Dutch or it was France or it was England, originally were melanated. All royalty was originally melanated. All. And even when we're talking about Britain, up into the mid-1800s, the Queen of England was melanated. Now, they were amalgamated, meaning they had started sleeping and mating with the Albions, but they were melanated all the way up to the mid-1800s. And so here we're talking about the 1700s and the early 1700s, where they have established colonies. Now, you got these other Moors who have come into the land, and they were elite. Why do we call them elite? Because they have a higher knowledge of law, and they know how to implement it, and they did. So when we start talking about counties, and that's when you're talking about your Moors. Now, I need to make this clear, because when you say Moors, people automatically think Morocco. When you say Moor, people automatically think melanated people. But I need this to be made clear. And, a lot of my people with, some of the Moor groups or what have you, they get upset because people are telling them things and they're not paying attention to what's being told to them. They're just taking it as gospel. They're not researching it. Okay, but I need to make this clear. Moor had nothing to do with skin color. No, Moor meant black, because that's what they told me in the Morris Chapel. They said that the Moor mean black. That's not what Moor meant. So you can ask those same people in the chapel, were there Albion Moors or so-called white Moors? Ask them, were there Albion Moors? And they're going to tell you yes. So if you're going to tell me that there was an Albion Moor, then how are you telling me that Moor had anything to do with skin color when you just told me there were some white Moors, or so-called white? It didn't have anything to do with skin color. That term Moor had to do with a job done on a ship. So I'm going to look this up right now. Mooring. Put this on the screen for me. Mooring. You see that word, M-O-O-R? A place where a boat or a ship is moored. The boat has been at its usual moorings immediately prior to the storm, read in a complete sentence. The ropes, chains, or anchors by or to which a boat, ship, or buoy is moored. Hold on, let me look up another one. So they keep talking about M-O-O-R-E-D. All right, so let's look up M-O-O-R-E-D. Moored. To fast a boat by attaching it to a cable or rope to the shore or to an anchor. So let's be clear that Moor didn't have anything to do with skin color. It had to do with a job done on a ship. The vast majority of these people who were doing the job were melanated. And then when the term was applied to them, it wasn't applied as a term of endearment. It's a term of disrespect, kind of like the N-word that folks want to run around calling themselves today. Moor had to do with a job done on a ship, and the people who were doing it, they were mostly pirates. And some of them were coming from Morocco. Some of them were coming from Britain as well. If you look up you've heard the term brutish Moors or British Moors. It didn't have to do with, they just from this country called Morocco. So I need this to be made clear. Everybody do your homework. Thank you, Savvy. So we got to understand what these terms are that are coming up. Okay, so you got Moors in this land, and I call them elite because, again, they had a higher knowledge of law. And so when they came into the land, they had started establishing counties. Remember I told you about counties? That's a true government. You got the counties, that's a true government, and then you got the federal. That's true government. But when you start talking about state and city, those are not governments at all. And I don't want to go deep into that because I've got to get into the hidden ancestral baggage. All right, but I got to set this history up so that we understand the truth about what was happening here. So they're melanated people in this land. And I talked about the presidents that came before Washington, and the vast majority of them were melanated. That's why you're not told about them. If you really want to look at it, George Washington was melanated. George Washington, he was a Moor too. He was amalgamated, but he was a Moor, and George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and everybody in between them, melanated. And let's be clear, George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, George Washington all the way down to Obama. Every president since George Washington to Obama was a direct descendant of the Queen of England. The Queen of England. All right, so we need to make that clear. Don't believe me, just go look it up. All right, but let's go back to those presidents before George Washington, and people want to argue with me about whether or not George Washington was the first president of the United States of America. We're going to get into that. I'm going to show you proof, factual evidence, so that it's not a debate. I don't debate. I'm just giving you the facts. All right, if you disagree with me, you're just disagreeing with the facts. So I'm going to show you so you can see it for yourself. But George Washington was not the first president of the United States of America. There were several before him, and people want to say, oh, that was just the Continental Congress. But we're going to see in a few seconds the fact that when the Constitution, the original Constitution, was ratified in 1776, it was ratified in 1776, not in 1789. Those who created the Constitution purposely created laws such that royalty would not be able to take over the country or the land. So in the Constitution, they put certain wordage or verbiage, which includes the original 13th Amendment, which is a nobility clause. That nobility clause says, if you are any kind of royalty, duchess, queen, king, any prince, you cannot be president of the United States of America. That's the original Constitution, or the organic Constitution that was created by these Moors who set up the United States of America. They're the ones who established it. Now, here's the other thing. People want to keep saying stuff like, well, you know, ain't no way that the white people is going to vote for the black people. They still are not understanding that there were a lot of Albion slaves in this land. I did not say indentured servants. I said slaves. As a matter of fact, the term slave comes from Slavic and Slovakian. Those are Albion people, light skinned, non-melanated. So the problem is that people have no clue that the original people who created the Constitution, the United States of America, these are melanated folks, but they want to say words to you like forefathers, and the first thing you think in your mind is Albion people. Not thinking, not recognizing who created what we know of as counties, who was running the United States of America, the fact that when we're talking about Britain, that those people were not an Albion people. I need to get into this, because you got to understand what the terms are. You Moorish people, you people with the Moor foundation, Bey, Day, Muhammad, Ali, what does that mean? Those are other elite people who came into this land, Moors who came into this land. And we talk about Bey and Day, these are governors. Bey is governors of Morocco. Dey would be governors of Algiers. Bey means Beglave or something to that effect. Beglave as in a governor. Dey is the same thing, but it's for Algiers as opposed to Morocco. So what I'm saying to you is there were several different Moors from different places, meaning Moor meaning somebody who traveled over here on a ship, or who's a sailor, that came into the land and established governments, one being the county. Now, what I need to go over is understanding truly what happened in this land and the fact that there were melanated presidents during the time of the Continental Congress, and that melanated folks were really running this land originally. When we're talking about the United States of America getting started in 1770, even before that, because that 1776, they had been running it up until that time, and Britain had been doing tyrannical things to the people, and that's when they got fed up. They said, well, we're done with Britain. Britain needs to be out of here. Britain has no more control. Now, before I go into this document, Declaration of Independence is what I'm about to read right now, so that you can understand who these people were. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but we're going to go through it and understand who created it. All right. Now, I told you these were melanated folk. These were Moors that came into this land. And we have a whole list of treaties that show how they treated the original people of the land. So you got the British. Pay attention now, people in the back of the room, because I'm going to try to break this down because it's convoluted. We've been told a lot of lies, and I need to clear this up. We had the British that came in here, or Britain, and they made treaties with the original people of the land. In those treaties, the original people of the land never gave up title to the land. They said, we're going to pay you tribute, meaning we're going to pay you taxes, but the land stays in the name of our descendants forever, until time immemorial, until the end of time. Okay, so then we have another group, these Moors, these elite Moors that established the United States of America. Well, these people, they befriended the original people of the land, or the so-called Indians. And I let me say this, because we have some people who are indigenous to the land. That'd be me too, and a lot of us. But some of them really take offense to the term Indian. That's why I'm saying the original people of the land, just so that you know. But what happened is the original people of the land were befriended by these elite Moors. But then when it came time to really do business, they were stepping on the Indians. They weren't honoring any kind of agreements that they might have made. They weren't communicating with them. As a matter of fact, they were being very disrespectful. They were killing the Indians. Let's make that clear. So these Moors that came in here, they were not befriending the original people of the land. As a matter of fact, they had started to kill them off and take over territory that had not been promised to them. Well, Britain was doing the same thing. Okay, so what Britain was doing, however, is they were stepping on both the original people and any Moors in the land running stuff. So there was a big issue, and then this is why the Declaration of Independence and this separation came about, because of the tyrannical things that Britain was doing. All right, and so at this time, this is called a hostile takeover, because Britain is making a lot of money off of these colonies. These are businesses. Once again, the Virginia Company was the first of these businesses, and you all know of it as State of Virginia today. It's the same company. All right. So what ends up happening is that these elite Moors, they say, you know, we're done. We're tired of this. Britain has got to get out. Okay. You don't have any kind of control over the colonies anymore. They set it up where every state, and this is one of the things that I've told you guys about, every state is its own country. Every state is a country, and we've talked about what it takes to have a country or a nation: a flag, a seal, a landmass, a constitution, and a bank. Every state is its own country or nation. And that's what was established with the Declaration of Independence as well as the Constitution. But a lot of people are unaware of that. And with this hostile takeover, if you tell somebody you're going to take their money away from them, you're going to take their company that they're built away from them, well, you're going to have a fight. And that's why we have the Revolutionary War. Okay, so let's go into this. I want to take a look at this Declaration of Independence, and let's get a better understanding of who these people were and what their issues were. Now, the reason why I always tell you guys to go and read these documents, because see, we don't want to get into the habit of listening to somebody else's narrative or letting them tell you what it says or reading their little synopsis. No, we want to listen to the ancestors speak. We want to hear what was going on at that time. And this is why I tell you, I encourage people. This is why I encourage people to go and read legal documentation. Go and read ancient scriptures. Read, any kind of books or texts that come before the mid 1800s, because after the mid 1800s is when they started to rewrite history. So I encourage you to go and find the treaties that went on in the 17 and 1600s. They exist. As a matter of fact, we have them up on our site. All right. So we encourage you to do your own research so you can see this for yourself. And I'm establishing the history of what has happened. You got melanated folks who are your original people. You got melanated folks who are running the United States of America. You got British people in here. A lot of them are melanated. Again, they amalgamated because they started mating with the Albions, but they melanated still. So you got three groups of melanated folks in here that are fighting over this land. And then we haven't even talked about Morocco yet. And Morocco was melanated folks originally. Today is a different group of people, a whole different group of people. But back then it was melanated people. All right. So let's get into reading this Declaration of Independence. Let's go. Okay. So, once again, I encourage you to go and pull this down. But as you can see, this Declaration of Independence was created in 1776. So for anybody who's trying to make the argument that some kind of way, no, George Washington, he was the president of the first United States of America. Okay, let's read this. Now, I've highlighted some places in here that make it clear, make some things clear about what was going on at that time. And again, you are welcome to pull this down yourself and read it in its entirety. All right. So in this section, it says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from their consent of the governed. Now, I need you to understand, the people who wrote this have a high knowledge of law. They have to, in order to create such a document as this, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. So somebody's making it clear, look, we got a right. We are the people. We have a right to create whatever government we want to create. All right. So this section here, I just want to establish, because they go in a long, detailed list of the things that the King of Britain had been doing to the people and why they were creating this Declaration of Independence and the Constitution that went along with it. The history of the president, King of Great Britain, is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having indirect object, all having indirect object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. So basically they're saying that he's doing all of these things, and it's detailed in here what has been taking place. And listen, the same things that was going on back then, same things that were going on back then are the same things that are going on now. All right, same things, nothing is different. And the reason why is because Britain is still running this. All right, Britain is still in here running things, and the people are very clueless about that. In every stage of the oppression, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. In other words, we keep asking you to stop harming us, but you keep harming us. Every time we say stop harming us, you harm us some more. All right. Now I want to get into who these people were so that you can understand some things about this contract here, or this treaty or agreement. I need you to understand some things about this agreement. Nor have we been wanting in attention to our British brethren. So they're telling you we related to these people. Whether they be from Morocco, because Morocco, once again, was in bed with Britain. As a matter of fact, Britain had sent one of their right-hand people to go over there and be the right-hand man of the Sultan of Morocco in the 1500s. So they were in bed together. But we have been wanting in attentions to our brethren. Like we try to get their attention, but they're not paying attention. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarranted jurisdiction over us. Okay, we warned them to stop trying to put us under their jurisdiction because they feel like they're free. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration, as in they're not original to this land, and settlement here. Like they feel, again, these are elite. They are elite Moors, and they know law. And they're like, look, we settled here, and we immigrated here, and we told you we're royalty, so you don't have the right to be trying to put us under your jurisdiction. That's what they're doing here is the same thing we show you how to do with a trust. What they're doing here with this documentation, Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, we show you how to do with a trust because you have the same rights to do exactly what they did in this case with the United States of America. All right, we have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conquered or conjured them by the titles of our common kindred. See, they're telling you they're related. We have conjured them by the titles of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations. Stop trying to put us under your jurisdiction, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war and peace friends. We therefore, the representatives of, what does this say, everybody who can read it with me, who's not in the back of the room? We therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world. So they're telling you that they are establishing this under the United States of America. So anybody who has any disagreements, argue with this declaration right here that's been on record since 1776. Okay, so we're done with that. Thank you, Savvy. Elkie Man, welcome. Peace and love to you always, to you and family. Thank you, Elkie Man. All right. So now we're understanding that these people have established this. And again, these Moors, this is in 1776. They want you to believe they're Albions, light-skinned people. White, they're not. They're Moors. And that's why you don't know about the presidents before George Washington. You only know about George Washington. Now, I need to go into some things, because these people, these elite Moors, from whatever place they came from, whether it be Britain or whether it be Morocco or Algiers or wherever they came from, they're complaining in this document that they have asked the King of England to stop being disrespectful to them. They've asked the King of England, they said, hey, we're trying to have a conversation with you. We asked you to stop hurting us and you keep hurting us. Okay, I need you to understand something. Remember I told you about the original people of the land, the so-called Indians. There was an Indian confederacy, and they too tried to go to the United States of America because they too were getting stepped on. And they have the same complaints about the United States of America and these elite Moors that these elite Moors have about England. So let's understand what's going on now, because what people are not being told is that these elite Moors that were running the United States of America, they degraded the status of the original people of the land to black, Negro, and colored. Now you might think to yourself, well, why would they? And what does it matter? The original people of the land had just as much rights to create their own, establish their own nation as these people. And they had already established their own nation. But what you got to understand is those who created the United States of America, that was a federal organization. And when you're dealing with federal, then the federal is giving funding for everybody who's up under that umbrella called the United States of America. So what happened is these elite Moors, they went and put the original people up under the umbrella of the United States of America, and they degraded their status. Now remember, these are same color people, both are brown folks. They're both brown people. But they degraded the status of these other brown people. Pay attention, because now we get ready to get into the spiritual side. This group of brown people who are running what's known today as the Continental Congress, they degraded the status of another brown people who are known as the original people of this land. And in doing so, they called them black, colored, and Negro. Well, let's understand that those three titles were not originally applied to melanated people. They originally were not applied to melanated people. And the original people would be considered royalty because this is their land you're in. They were supposed to be above the United States of America. But these people, they degraded the status. Now, not only did they degrade the status, they started to enslave them. And when you're talking about the slave trade, what's not being told to you is the fact that it wasn't just melanated people being traded. There were Albions being brought from places like Sicily and Ireland. But here's the deal. The melanated folks, they was being shipped between the north and the south. So they shipped them down to Brazil. And they're going to go down and kidnap some people from Brazil and ship them up north to North America. At this time, nobody cared about skin color. They only cared about making money. And melanated people were just as involved in the slave trade and enslaving other people as anybody else. But let me be clear, because a lot of people are not aware of this, because they just think that, oh, the white people, they were indentured servants. No, they were full-fledged slaves. And when you go and look up the 5 civilized tribes, you're going to recognize that they had slaves. Well, who were the slaves? They had Albion slaves. And this is why you get these laws that came into place that said melanated people can't have slaves of they call them Christians. They can't have Christian slaves. Well, why would they put in such a rule or a law if melanated people had never had slaves? They used to have slaves too. So your original people had slaves. Then you got these other people, these elite Moors in here. They participated in the enslavement because they started shipping them north and south and north. All right. Not to mention Britain. Even when you look up the term brutish Moors, you understand that they were all about enslaving, kidnapping and enslaving. That was part of what they did. And when you're talking about British, Morocco, Tunis, Algiers, Tripoli, all of those were the Barbary countries or Barbary states. And what they did was they were participating in piracy, meaning they saw you on the sea, they're going to steal your ship. Or they steal your land, and kidnapping. They steal your people. This is what we're talking about back in these times. And these were melanated people doing this. Melanated. I'm sure there's some Spaniards, some Albion Spaniards that came into the game. But right now, I want to deal with the fact that we got 3 melanated groups of folks in here fighting over this territory we call North America. You got your original people of the land. You got your elite Moors. You got your British Moors. And so here we're going to get into the baggage, the ancestral debt, because I also mentioned that these people were bringing in Albion slaves. If you don't believe me, look up white slaves in America. If you don't believe me, look up Moorish bathhouses, because then they started bringing in Albion women as slaves, where they put them in Moorish bathhouses and they go in and out of the bathhouses, sexing them at will. You understand the game? This is what was going on back then. So what I'm saying to you is, we got people, these 3 brown people who've enslaved not only each other and disrespected each other, but they enslaved the Albion. So let's get into the spiritual side of this. Okay. You hear a lot, you'll hear people say, well, that's 400 years of slavery and we got a 400-year curse. And okay, I need to go into who we are as spiritual entities so that we're not acting like victims in this whole game. And that's the problem. We've been acting like victims. We're not recognizing the garbage that our ancestors, which is really us, put out. Okay. So when I say we are our ancestors, people go, well, I didn't have nothing to do with that. It wasn't me. Okay. Pay attention. Pay attention and understand this whole spiritual game, because everything is spiritual. And when you're ignorant about history, you cannot clean up the spiritual baggage or the ancestral debt. So I needed to be understood, and I've said this before. You are a spiritual entity having a human experience. If you still think you're this vessel, then you lost. There's a spiritual element that's pushing the vessel. So the vessel expires, but the spirit continues. You always were as a spiritual entity. You always will be as a spiritual entity. And let's understand that as a spiritual entity, when you put out baggage, that spiritual energy is going to follow you into whatever other reincarnation that your spirit goes into. I need this to be made clear, because a lot of people don't, they just think this thing is, oh, it's just what I see and what I think and that's not how the universe works. So you got to know who you are. You got to know what happened in the past so you can understand what your ancestors did, because your ancestors are you, and you got to deal with the ancestral debt that was put out by your ancestors, which is really you. So I needed to be made clear. When we're talking about a child, we're talking about an old spirit coming back in a new vessel. So once again, when we're talking about a child, we're talking about an old spirit coming back in a new vessel, because once again, we've all been here before. You know it, you feel it. Nobody just told you about it, and you haven't been able to speak with somebody who understands what you've seen. But I know. So understand this. When we're talking about a child, once again, we're talking about an old spirit coming back in a new vessel. And that old spirit is carrying baggage. So we've got to understand that we are not victims in this game. Any energy that's coming upon us, and this is why, hold on for a second. This is why I tell you, get the beginner law book. Okay? You get the beginner law book. In here, you're going to find the universal laws. And in the universal laws, we go over in detail what these laws are. And when you know what these laws are, when you know how to use them to your advantage, when you know how to see, it's going to teach you how to see things that other people can't see. So what's happening is that by law, when you are in a vessel and you create an energy, whatever it is, whether it's a good energy, whether you've been kind to people, loving and honest and respectful, or you've been dishonest and hurtful, or whatever else you've been doing, that's an energy that's going to carry you. It's going to stay with you, even into your next incarnation, whether you believe it or not. You don't have to believe it. The ancestors have been telling us, the Bible, which is written by the Sibyls and Oracles, they have been telling us. So it's up to you if you want to listen or not. But this is why they tell you, you better do good before you leave, or you're going to go to hell. This is your heaven, or this is your hell, depending on the energies that you have put out. This is your heaven or your hell, depending on the energies that you put out. So in understanding that, when you look at melanated people and you're seeing what you consider a hell or an unfair energies that are coming on the melanated people, you're not understanding the true history of what happened in the past. You're not recognizing the karmic baggage because somebody lied to you and told you that you came over on slave ships, when the truth is, no, your ancestors was running this place first. Your ancestors were here even before Columbus. Some of your ancestors, the original people that were here even before Columbus. And then the ancestors that came after Columbus, the brown ones, you're not being told about what they did. When you go into the Moorish camp, they're not telling you the truth about what the Moors did in this land. They're not telling you the truth about how the Moors degraded the status of these melanated people. That's an energy. So when you degrade their status and then you mistreat them, well, the same energy must come back around. The universal laws, all they deal with is a return of energy. Y'all want to call karma a B, but karma's not the B, you the B. And what you can do when you know the universal laws is you can clear up the ancestral debt or the karmic baggage. So when you are seeing, once again, all our men are in the industrial complex, the prison industrial complex, what we's gonna do? We's gotta get That's so unfair what they doing to our black men. Ask yourself, why is the United States of America has the highest rate of incarceration of any people on any land on this planet? No other planet has a higher prison industrial complex incarceration rate than the United States of America. You got to ask yourself why. Oh, because they don't like black people, do, but they just hate the black man because the black man. Okay. Getting into ancestral baggage, we just talked about the fact that all of these melanated people are kidnapping these Albions and enslaving them. Not only the original people, the elite Moors, Moroccans, British. There's a whole bunch of melanated folks right there. And that's a whole bunch of ancestral baggage put out. When you enslave, you must be enslaved. That's the law. I'm only speaking universal law. These are only laws I really care about because I know the universe is real. And if you know these laws, then you'll be able to see what I'm telling you. So when I know that all of these Albions have been discombobulated, kidnapped, a lot of them raped, disrespected, moved to another land, somebody got to pay for that. And it's going to, the people who pay are going to be the ones who put the energy out. So when I see Albions running around the N-word, N-word, N-word with all this hatred and all this disrespect and this disdain, I know that it's not just by happenstance. I know it's an energy. I know that. And if you want to know who kidnapped them, where the Moors at that kidnapped all these people, go look in the prison industrial complex. You want to know where they are? Go and look. They're same people in a different vessel. As I told you, when we talk about in this land, melanated and Albion people, they're connected. They're on the same vibratory frequency, Albions and melanated people, same vibratory frequency. They were done wrong first by melanated people. They were enslaved and kidnapped and raped and all this other stuff. And people don't want to admit that because they want to be in a victim state. Well, I'm not sugarcoating this for you peoples, because the only way we can come up out of this mess is to be honest and recognize the things that our ancestors or we did in a past time. Because some of y'all are doing the same thing and you're going to end up in that same loop. Congratulations. But for those of y'all who want to come up out of the loop, pay attention and be willing to acknowledge what happened in the past. You can't grow off of lies. You can't. Because you can't clean up the spiritual baggage, and you all want to keep saying, oh, we're victims of the white man and supremacy and the white. Listen up. You're a God. You are a God. You can't be a victim and a God at the same time. Choose one. If you want to be a victim, go and sit in the corner. But if you really want to clean up the mess, if you really want to become accountable, and you gotta be, you gotta acknowledge what happened in the past. You gotta acknowledge the truth and the facts. That's the only way you move forward. So here we got a situation where we're talking about karmic law and unveiling the hidden ancestral debt. I'm letting you know that there is a shift that's been going on. This shift been going on since before that whole 2020 era. You get to choose whether you be on top after this shift or you be on the bottom. You get to choose. And it's going to deal with the energies that you put out. People who are running around here hating on the Albion and talking trash and disrespectful, well, good. All that energy gets to come back to you. Congratulations. I'm letting you know that there is also somebody else underneath this game too, that you all never look at. You want to look at the Albion and think that the Albion is running this game and they disrespecting the melanated folks. Let me tell you something. There's another group of people that you never look at. You think they victims too. They don't care about an Albion much less a brown man, much less a so-called black man. They don't care. They will step on all three of you all. And the purpose of it, of this whole thing, is to keep you all fighting so you never look at them. And when you're putting this energy out towards the Albion, or the Albion's putting out towards the melanated people, that energy must come back by law. So once again, my purpose here today is to deal with karmic law and unveil the hidden ancestral debt. And when you go in the prison industrial complex, well, you know, I know what I'm looking at. I know I'm looking at Moors who did these. I know I'm looking at some so-called Indians or original people who did some dirty deeds. I know I'm looking at some Moroccans and some brutish Moors who came into this land and did some dirty deeds. If you want to clean up the ancestral baggage, know the true history, be ready to acknowledge it, and then we can clean it up. That's the only way you clean it up. Anybody have any comments or questions before I get out of here? Once again, I want to make sure you all know, if you want the membership trust package, okay, find us on unauniversity.com, or you can leave your name, number, email. We're broadcasting on TikTok, X, and YouTube. Also, if you want the beginner law book, find us at unauniversity.com. All right, and you can get this. Do I have any comments? Who disagrees? I need to pull out some more facts. Who has any comments or questions? All right, so I want to thank you guys for joining tonight. All right, I just want you all to remember there is a spiritual undertaking or undertone to everything that happens in this third dimension, everything. And what you're looking at is a communication from the universe. When you learn the universal laws, then you can really understand what the universe is saying. It's going to be difficult for people to lie to you. It's going to be difficult for people to come to you and act like they're a victim, because you're going to know the facts. All right. So please understand universal law. I want to invite you all, by the way, we do have our fall season or autumn season 2025. I'm ready to jump into 2026. We got fall season 2025 coming up. If you're interested in joining the universe, leave your name, number, and email so we can get you in here, and you can start really learning these universal laws. We're going to take you into understanding federal codes, understanding how to create your own laws, how to go into court and stand like the God that you are. All right, y'all need to remember, you are elite. And if you want to start constructing the third dimension into your heaven as opposed to being in hell, then you want to start learning these laws. Come into the university so we can get you on track, so you can learn how to walk. All right, I want y'all to know I love you. I appreciate you, Diva Laree. I'm ready to be out. We're going to see y'all next time. See you next Friday. All right. Give me a hug. Bye-bye.